The Van Allen belts are donut-shaped regions around the Earth that contain charged particles, which are mostly from the solar wind, that are spiraling and bouncing from magnetic pole to magnetic pole and drifting westward for ions and eastward for electrons. So this is a long definition. Let's take a look at these Van Allen belts. The first thing you need to know is that they are these donut-shaped regions. So here we have a cartoon image of the Earth, and we're looking at the magnetic pole north and the magnetic pole south, and then straddling around the equatorial region, you see these two belts. You've got an inner belt and you've got an outer belt. Now this is implying that there are two belts, but not always are there two belts. There could be three belts. It depends on the weather conditions, the space weather conditions of the day. In general, though, there are two Van Allen belts on a normal, typical, average day. Now these belts contain charged particles. Where did the charged particles come from? Well, they come in from the solar wind. If the sun is over here, it's streaming out solar particles, and those particles have charge with them, and the charged particles interfere with Earth's magnetic field. And so that's where we mostly get our charged particles from. Now notice I said they're spiraling and bouncing from magnetic pole to magnetic pole. So let's take a look at this from this NASA cartoon. We're looking at a magnetic field line. So now the particles are already trapped and they're spiraling along these magnetic field lines. So I'm going to show you an animation and look for these spiraling particles. You're going to see yellow colored particles, which are going to be your negatively charged particles like electrons, and you're going to see blue colored spiraling particles, and those are going to be your positively charged particles. In addition to bouncing back and forth along the magnetic field lines, they also drift around the Earth. The protons go in the westerly direction, whereas the electrons go in the easterly direction. So let's go take a look at this. Here is a NASA animation. Let's go take a look at these charged particles. Remember to look for the blue ions and the yellow electrons. Here we are. So you can see the charged particles. They're flowing around the magnetic field lines. You've got this outer radiation belt, and if you look closely, you've got this inner radiation belt. And in between, you have a zone of no radiation belt. And outside, you have a region which is colored yellow called the plasma pause.